All right, so now if you go to your document or if you copy it over it from here, then you should see a chassis with one motor installed on it. And if you rotate your view, you should be able to see that it has pretty much all of the gears installed on it. And if you try to rotate one of them, it'll just rotate that one, and the other one will not rotate. So the first thing we're going to do today is actually fix that. So just as before, if you go to your left, there's going to be a menu where you'll see like every part that you have in your assembly, as well as every make feature that you have as well. So first, what you want to do is in this menu on the top, where you usually get your mates from, go to the very right of those mates, and you should see a menu with a lot of gear symbols. Now you want to select the one that's on the left. And if you hover over it, it should say gear relation. And the icon looks like two gears meshing into each other. So what you want to do is click on that, and then instead of selecting parts like you would normally do with mates, you would want to actually select the mates themselves. And specifically, you want to select Revolute mates, which is why we did our Revolute mates. And for copying the file, let me see if try refreshing the document and then see if you can copy it, because I think it should be able to. But as long as you have that, go and again do your gear relation, and in the menu on the left, you should have like 3 Revolute mates currently, and 2 of them should be together because those are the 2 like bearings that you put on your axle. So just select, say, Revolute 1, and also another thing to do is if you don't know which is which, if you hover over one of them in the menu, then it should show like the location of the mate and which parts it's like connected to. But for now, you want to select Revolute 1 and Revolute 3. And to check if your gear mate is going in the right direction, just click and drag it. And it might be a bit like laggy, but if you see here, they're not going in like different directions. They're going in the same direction. And to fix that, all you have to do is in this box, just check mark reverse direction. And then after that, if you click and drag, they should mesh with each other. And then after that, all you have to do is click on the check mark. And your gears should be meshed and rotate quite well. So after you have that, so once you have your gear mate selected, then you want to go and insert, and then go to your Assemblies tab and select the second part, which is a large blue part that begins with 1310. And make sure it's 1310 and not like 1309, because it's kind of easy to confuse them. So after you have that, then check mark, and now you want to do a Fastened Mate. So for that, you want to hover your mouse. First, you want to zoom in to your part, and then hover over the top surface of this. It should be the one that's like kind of thinner, and it only has one hole in it. And if you hover over one of the surfaces, you should see that there's like a lot of mate connectors basically, but one is different from the others, and that's the one that's located in the center of the hole. And so move your mouse until the icon that shows is actually like over that hole, and then click it. And for your second connector on the mate, just click the top of your bearing. So on your bearing, there should be like a lot of circles on there. Just select the one that's like a bit on the edge, that's pretty much on the top of the bearing. And then once you have that, if you notice that it's not like fitting correctly around the axle, you can just rotate, but regardless, you can just check mark that. Now if it's the wrong way, again, you can just use your flip tool, and that should be all good. And now when you click and drag on your hub, you should see that it actually rotates the axle and the gears and the motor and pretty much everything that goes along with it. Then you want to insert, and first we have a question. All right, repeat the Fastened Mate. All right, so first, once you have your Fastened Mate created, on the top surface of this hub, the blue part, which the top side should have only one hole in it. And what you want to do is hover your mouse over the very top surface of that and move it so that the icon, which is the yellow circle with the 3 colored lines sticking out of it, make sure that part is over the hole that's in the middle of the hub. And then just click on that, and then for your second connector, just click on the top of the bearing. The top being the side that's facing towards the outside. And then you can rotate that if you want and solve it. Close this if there's still a window, and click and drag to see that everything rotates correctly. And now after that, we are going to insert another part. And you're going to have to do a bit of scrolling down for this, but it's going to be the large wheel that ends in 0096. And there should be actually 2 of them. One is going to be blue and one is going to be gray. It should be below the sprockets. So just select the gray one, just because like blue wheels would look kind of weird. And then hit the check mark again. So now what you're going to want to do is do a Fastened Mate and go to the top of the wheel, specifically this like kind of surface with all the holes in it. And you want to select the large one in the middle and select the top edge of that, and then click. And then for your hub, where you attach it to, first you might want to rotate your view so you don't accidentally click the wheel. And for this, you want to actually see that there's kind of 2 sections that would count as this surface. There's like the flat surface with the 4 holes, and there's also this little part that sticks out. So what you want to do is select the the edge where they both meet. So that would be kind of like the bottom of the part that sticks out, basically. And then once you have that, just click and your wheel should be all good. And then once you have that, you can click and drag on it to rotate it. And another thing that we can do is called animate, where we can basically have it so that we can move our wheels around. And so to do that, go to our menu on the left, and it has pretty much all of the mates in there. So just click on Revolute 1. Don't double click, just click it so that it highlights in blue. Then right click on it, and then you'll see that there's a lot of options you can do. So what you want to do is go close to the bottom, and there should be a button called Animate. And once you click on that, there's going to be a box that shows up, and the only thing that really matters are the two buttons on the bottom, which are play and stop. So if you press play, then everything should go in order. Your gears should rotate as well as your wheel. And there's also some more options. Start value and end value are pretty self-explanatory. Steps just controls the speed, and playback type you can set it to like loop or play only once. Animate is located so in this list on the left. If you go to one of your Revolute mates, you can right click on it, and then in this menu there's a button that is called Animate, and it should be the third from the bottom around that location. Yeah. And now that we're done with this wheel, I'm going to open this up for questions. And if you have any questions, you can just send a message in the chat, and I'll be open for questions for 5 minutes. And then after that, I'll hand it over to Kevin, who is going to show you how to do the middle wheel. All right, so to attach the blue thing, I assume you mean the hub. So basically what you want to do is do a Fastened Mate. So if you don't remember from yesterday, that's on the top menu, and it looks like a cylinder with like two parts that are coming together. If you hover over it, it should say fastened. So once you get that, you will hover on the top surface of the hub, and there should be a lot of like white dots, which are basically like the points where you can connect it. But the one that you want to click on is going to be located on the top of the hole that's in there. So it should be the one that's like on the far side of that surface. And then once you have that, then the second connector that you want is going to be on top of the bearing. Basically, what you want to do is just hover over the surface of the bearing and click. And if you want the hex to line up, even though it doesn't really matter, just like click this circle key if you want to. And then just press the check mark. And once you have that, it should be attached on. Is that good? Yeah. And then a quick recap for insert, just go to Part Studios, scroll down, there should be 2 large wheels, one blue, one gray, and just move the gray one into your assembly. Then check mark, do another fastened, and make it, attach it to the hole in the center, and attach it onto the hub where the part that sticks out meets the surface that has like the holes on it. And then once you have that, you can press the check mark and your wheel should be ready. So if anyone else has questions, then don't hesitate to send a message and I can go over it.
Done?
I'll wait like 1 more minute and then I'll hand it off to you.
All right, no problem.
The chassis is, so my chassis is like fastened to the origin, but if you like click and drag and it's like moving a lot, then one thing that you can do is just right click on a part, and then in this menu, there should be a button called Fix, and that pretty much makes it so that your part isn't able to move at all. But it doesn't really matter where the origin is, just that your chassis is like pretty much fixed. And actually, this is pretty much additional information, but mates, you can also set mates to like be on the origin. So it's kind of hard to do it here because it's already attached, but yeah, you can basically use the origin for mates as well. So if we don't have any more questions, then I will hand it off to Kevin, who will show you how to make the middle wheel.
All right, thank you, Cohen. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so here is where we left off from Cohen, right? We have our kind of our bottom left wheel here attached to our motor, and it spins it correctly and everything. Next up, we're gonna make the second wheel that's right around the middle of the robot. So first off, I think we want to insert two more bearings for us to revolute. So go down, and then the bearing, go down into your part studio, and then the bearing should be 16110514 and 4008. And we're gonna grab 2 of those. And don't forget to press check mark afterwards so you save them in. Now, we're going to use our revolute mates again so we can spin them in our channels. And then our first bearing, we're going to click on kind of the under side of the kind of like the protrusion of the top, right? So click on there. And then the hole that we are going to use is 2 up. So the third one from the channel here, this one. So I'm going to zoom in and click on the inside of the channel here. And then we want the bearing, the head of the bearing to be on the inside of the channel. So flip that. And then press check mark. So your bearing should be, the head of your bearing, the part that kind of is thicker than the rest should be on the inside of the channel. So like that. And it's going to be on count 2.5 holes up. And then it's on the third hole there. And then moving on, we're gonna do the same thing for our other bearing, just on the other side of the channel. So click on that kind of underside edge of the bearing. And then go around and then click on the inside of the hole of the channel. And then make sure that your head is on the inside. And then there you go. So that's what our two bearings should look like. Any questions so far? All right, we'll give it another minute for people to kind of finish attaching those two. There's going to be some slight differences, especially in like the types of, especially in the stuff that's on the axle. So we're just going to be, it's mostly the same concepts, just kind of different parts. All right. So I'm gonna move on now. Next step, we're gonna kind of line these two revolute mates up so that they spin together with a parallel mate. So at the top of the toolbar, kind of in the first section of where all your mates are, it's gonna be the farthest to the right, and this is the parallel mate. It's like two rectangles and then an arrow pointing at both of them. And if you hover it, it says parallel mate. So I'm going to click on that. Then we're going to zoom in on one of the bearings and just click on one of the surface areas of these, like the kind of hexagonal shape on the inside of the bearing. So just any one of these surface areas. And then click on that. And then go to the other bearing and then just click on another surface area as well. Once that happens, oh, whoops. Yeah. So once that happens, when you press check mark, the two should just kind of spin together. Any questions on this one? Okay, if there's no questions, let's just move on then. Next up, we're going to be inserting the actual axle now. So go back to your insert menu, and then it's going to be an assembly here. So, and then I believe it's this one, the blue, kind of the bluish axle, ends in 0800. So this blue axle right here. Just going to put one in there and then check mark. Okay, and then for this one, we're going to just use a Fasten Mate to stick it onto one of our bearings here. So the important thing here is to make sure that the center indicator is well centered on your axle, so that it knows how to like spin it correctly, so that the program knows how to like spin it correctly and in center. To do this, I'm just going to click on the underside of this yellow thing at the top, and then click on the edge. So it's going to be this edge on the underside of the axle. And just make sure that your center is centered. And now I'm going to go back to this bearing, the bearing on the inside of the robot. And then I'm just going to click on one of these circles, and then just like the outer edge of the bearing-ish, and just make sure that your center is centered again. And then make sure that your axle is pointing outwards, right? Kaboom. There you go. And then if you kind of try to spin it, they should all just kind of spin together. Your two bearings and your axles should kind of spin together. Questions so far? Okay. I guess no one has a question up till this point, so we can just keep going. We're making good progress. Next up, we're gonna start inserting all of the like gears and sprockets on the inside of this channel and like on this axle. So first off, we're gonna insert a big sprocket here. So excuse me. So the big sprocket here, the part number should be 3310, 0014, and 0014. I didn't center it. So do you want me to show you it again, or? Okay. So for the Fasten Mate, right? For the axle. So, okay. Click on your Fasten Mate, and then on the kind of the underside, so the surface area of this yellow part that's like kind of pointing with the longer side of this axle, right? Gonna zoom in on the underside of this, and then click on the edge of this. Just click on the edge. Don't click on the surface area, but click on the edge. And then once you've clicked on the edge, go around to the bearing on the inside of the robot. So this one right here. Then zoom in a little and then just click. You can really click on any of the circles, but I think the outside one is the safest. So as long as your center indicator here points to the center of this bearing, then it should be good. And then you can just make sure that at this step, just make sure that your axle, the long side of your axle, is pointing outwards. And then once you have that, just check mark. Okay, I hope that answered your question. But okay, once again, we're gonna go back into our insert menu, and then we're gonna click on this big sprocket. It's blue. The part number is 33100014 and 0014. We're gonna get one of those, and then we're gonna go into assemblies now. And first one, we're gonna just the one at the top, it should be. It's a hub, it's a blue hub, and its part number should end in 4008. There you go. And then as for the final piece we're gonna insert right now, it's another sprocket. This time it's gray, and the part number should end in 0010. Right there. Questions on which ones to import? Yeah, okay. So yeah, so the first part I imported here is the blue one in Part Studio. So the first one is in Part Studios, which is the big sprocket, and it's the 3310 and 0014 0014. And then as for the other two, they're both in assembly. The first one should be at the very top. It's a hub, and then it is 1309 0016 and 4008. And then for the smaller sprocket here, it's 3307 4008 0010. And then check mark when you're done, and we can put them on the axle now. Okay. So first off, let's put our hub on. So we're going to use a Fasten Mate for this. And then I believe it's okay. Yeah. So we're going to select the surface area. So for the hub here, there's two sides. One has an extrusion on one side, and the other one does not. And we're gonna put the flat side onto our bearing are on the inside of our bearing over here. So use a Fasten Mate here and then click on the surface area, making sure that your center indicator is in the hole, is in the center hole of this. Once you have that, you can go over to your inside bearing here, and then click on your circle again, making sure once again your center is centered, because when it spins and they're not centered, it's not going to be fun. And make sure, and then if you have to, just kind of flip it and make sure that it is like that. Okay, once you're done with the hub there, let's put on the bigger sprocket now. We're going to use a Fasten Mate still, and then click on the big hole in the center of this hub of this sprocket, and then click on the edge there, and then we're going to go over, and then you're going to try and click on the bottom of this extrusion. So just kind of make sure that your center is centered there, and then flip if necessary, and then check mark. Any questions so far? Okay, so you didn't see the sprocket, the big one? The big one should be in Part Studio. And then if you scroll down a little, okay, you found it. That's good. You didn't see me attaching it. Okay, I can do that again real quick. So right, this is your sprocket here. And we're gonna click on the big hole edge. This big hole edge, and then you also have the hub in the wrong place. Okay. So the first thing you can do here is just, even if you don't have your hub attached, right, you can still just kind of attach your hub and your sprocket together first. So, right, I have the edge here, and then I'm gonna click on this, the bottom of this extrusion here. And then those two should just line up nicely. As for attaching the hub onto the bearing, we're gonna use a Fasten Mate again. Okay, you have the hub. If you have the hub, then I'll just speed through this. Okay, okay. Final piece, the small sprocket. We're gonna attach that. We're gonna attach the top of this extrusion to the bearing on the left side. So Fasten Mate, and then surface area, or I mean, you can also do like the edge, but surface area or edge. Just make sure your center is centered. That's the most important part of that. And then we're gonna go over to this bearing, so the opposite bearing now, and then we're gonna click on the bearing, just center is centered, and then there you go. So your the final inside of this should look like this. That's basically it for that. And then once we're done with these, we can attach the wheel and its hub. So for the wheel, we're gonna go into insert, and then it's in part assemblies here, or part studio, sorry. Go down and click on the gray wheel. Should end in 0096. Kaboom. And then I believe this one is assemblies, and then at the top of your assemblies list, click on the kind of the thicker looking hub, the second one from the top. The only difference between this one and the other one is the beginning is 1310. So it's there. Check mark when you have those two. Everyone have the two pieces here? Okay, so if everyone's ready, we're gonna go ahead and okay. So we're gonna stick this side of the bearing or of the hub. So kind of the smallerish side of this of the hub, and we're gonna use a Fasten Mate to stick that on the outside of the channels. So take a Fasten Mate and then just hover over the surface area or whatever, and then make sure you're clicking on the center so that it's centered. And then you can go over to the outside of the channel. So right over here. And then just click on the bearing so that you're centered, and then check mark that. And then we're going to attach the wheel to our hub now. So for the wheel here, there is a bit of a difference between both sides. One side is a bit shallow. The other side is a bit deeper. For this, I think we're going to stick the deeper side into the hub. So you're going to have to kind of like estimate it, I guess. But yeah, so I'm going to click on the big centerpiece of the wheel, the edge of that. And then I'm going to go over to my hub, and then click on the bottom of the extrusion. So click on the bottom of the extrusion so that the wheel will fit nice and tight up against the hub. Oops, did something wrong. Something happened. And there you go. Your middle wheel should be finished by this point. It is finished by the now. Questions before we move on? We can take like 5 minutes to make sure everyone has the middle wheel done here. Why can't the motor be attached to the wheel directly? Which motor? Are you talking about this? This motor? Or the wheel axle? You could. I mean, that's one way. There's many ways of doing this.
So in the kit that we are currently using, it comes with chains inside of it. So you're supposed to use chains in order to connect this.
Sorry, he corrected his question. Why can't the motor be attached, or not the motor, the wheel be attached to the axle directly? I think. Is that what you're asking? Why can't the motor be attached to the wheel axle? The motor be attached to the wheel axle. So this to this. Or are you talking about like putting the wheel onto the motor axle here? More or less. With this, well, obviously you can see that this motor axle is a little short. But with kind of gear configurations, you can make sure you can adjust your speed with like different gear sizes if you want to do that. And with this particular kit, we're going to be using chains to help move the rest of the wheels along with it. So is everyone good with the middle wheel? If we are, then I believe I'm going to hand it off to Gordon here, who will show you how to build the last wheel on one side of this robot.
So everyone should be up to this stage where they have 2 wheels in, and it should look like something like this if you go to your left front top view on your cube. So in order to do our last wheel, which if you saw in the master kit, it is a Omni wheel with it is an Omni wheel, so it's like it's easier to make the robot turn. So we're gonna go ahead and insert our pieces in. So we're gonna do the same thing again. We're gonna insert 2 bearings. Go ahead and insert 2 bearings. Then we're going to enter our axle. And then we are going to put
Yes.
our big sprocket to align with our chain drive, since currently how the gear configuration is, it goes to the small one, or its chain is attached like this to the chain is attached to this way. So we're going to put in the big sprocket and a sonic hub onto it. I'm gonna go ahead and import our sonic hub and then our big sprocket. And then we're gonna go ahead and insert our wheels. We can insert our wheels later, but let's just get these parts attached first. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and attach our bearings first. So this should be no different from the different steps. Go ahead and find the center point of your bearings, and then attach it to the second hole in the front of your chassis. That's going to be right here for us. So it looks like something like this when you have it attached. Then we're going to go ahead and do it with our second piece. So we're going to go ahead and click on the outside of the ring and attach it to another revolute. And then now we can see that right here, it is actually in a wrong orientation. So we're going to go ahead and click on our flip button and it will flip it over the correct orientation. Oh, whoops. I put it on the wrong hole. Thankfully, we can easily fix that with Onshape, because Onshape has a really nice editing aspect to it. So now our 2 bearings should be aligned with each other on the second hole. Next, we're going to do a parallel mate. And what this does is it basically makes sure that both sides of our bearings are aligned with each other. Wait, is it a parallel? Wait a minute. Basically make sure that both sides of our axle should be basically even with each other. And then,
Also, so that the bearings move at the same time.
yeah, like Cohen said. All right, then let's go move on to our axle. And then we're going to add a Fasten Mate and fasten that to our actual bearing. My click's not registering. So now we should be able to spin our gear around. Next, we're gonna go ahead and add our sonic hubs to our bearing. So we're gonna go ahead and fasten that mate. Oh, I'm not there yet. Oh. Sorry about that. So all pretty much we're just copying, pasting our steps that we learned from the last two wheels. We're not doing nothing new. So we just pretty much added the two bearings and the axle. And then that is pretty much all that we did. So I guess I'll wait for other people to catch up because I guess I was going too fast. So I'll give it a minute or two. All right. I think we should be up to the point where we have an axle and two bearings in. It should be nothing new compared to these wheels. The new part will be coming in soon, where we'll be, instead of adding a hyper hub to our axle, which is like the big hubs that these wheels uses, we're going to be adding a sonic hub instead. But let's first finish our sprocket our sprocket order, so we can make sure that these gears can work theoretically. So first we're going to get to our Fastened Mate and fasten this to our bearing. So when we rotate our bearing, the rest of the axle and everything else that's on it will actually be moving with the bearing. So go ahead and click on your bearing on the face where. So when you're selecting your face of this sonic hub, you should basically highlight over the greater area, and then you can see the yellow circle that pops up. That will tell you which point it is fastening to. So we are not going to fasten to one of these small points, or else it's going to be misaligned. We're going to just simply hover over the giant area or hover over the center, and we're going to click on it, and that will be our center point. We're going to fasten the side with no connector, basically the blank side, to our bearing like this. And we're going to press OK. And then we should have almost something that looks like on our middle wheel, or middle axle. We're going to finish that up by adding our sprocket to our sonic hub. So we're going to finish up our step. Press OK. And then now this should be what it looks like. So it should look like a axle with two bearings with a sprocket hub installed. And then when we spin the sprocket hub, it should rotate with everything. You can also go to this revolute. And click on animate, and we can press play. And then we should see a small animation that shows it rotating. Now, when we're going to do our wheels, we know that on the master kit, our picture, it's the front wheels are actually a different wheel. So let me grab the picture really quickly. We know the front wheels. So when we look at this robot, we know that our front wheels have this weird, like weird wheel formation where it's like kind of like a cross pattern, and then it is connected. So in order to complete this task, we are going to build our wheels slightly differently. So instead of a hyper hub, which is one of the big hubs over here, we're going to be using a sonic hub. Then we're going to go ahead and import our 2 wheels. So 1 and then 2. And then in order to put our wheels together, we need to put a spacer, or else the wheels are going to be basically touching each other, and like the point of the smaller wheels, we have like no point. So we're going to put a small part that is this yellow bracket, this yellow spacer. So now when we attach our wheel, we are going to make a fasten, and then fasten it to our if it would get the fasten for me. There you go. We're going to fasten it to our bearing. It's on the wrong side, so we're going to flip it. Then when we are going to put our wheel, fasten our wheel to our, uh-oh, why is it so slow? Going to get that fasten and fasten that to the sonic hub. I didn't think I clicked that one correctly, so I'm going to redo that really quickly. Going to fasten our wheel to our center point of our hub. Excuse me, on shape. There we go. Oh, that is inside the hub, so we're going to go ahead and flip that. Go. And then now, to top it off, we're going to add our spacer. Add our spacer. And then that's inside our wheel, so we're going to flip it. And then we are going to finish it off with one more fasten. And then we're going to fasten it like this. Flip it because it is touching. Okay, so right now we should be done. Except these wheels are right next to each other, which is a problem because we wanted to have, if you checked out our picture, our wheel actually has like this weird crisscross kind of, I guess, pattern. And that does not look like this right now. In order to solve that, we're going to go ahead and click on our fasten, click on offset, And then we're going to create a rotation offset on our XYZ plane. So we're going to say rotate about Z. And we're going to rotate this by 90 degrees, I think. There we go. That's okay. Now we should have this crisscross pattern with our wheels. And then we should be done. Now, if anyone has missed a step that we can go over, then go ahead and message any one of us. But we should have at least one side done of the example robot. So just one wheel and then two bigger wheels with the motor in. I haven't attached the hub for the wheels. I haven't attached the hub for the wheels. So attaching the Sonic hub should be no different. All you do is pretty much you get the hub. So let me go ahead and just back out of here real quick. So when you attach the hub for the wheels, you simply just click on the fasten, go ahead and click the center point. Uh-oh, click the center point. So when we make a fasten connector, when we highlight over the face of our shape or the face of our surface, it should automatically get the circle. If it doesn't, then we can go ahead and highlight and then click the circle. So yeah, so make sure when you click, you have this small like yellow circles saying that you chose that slide. Then when you do that, you can attach it to your bearing. And then as you can see, it's inside of the bearing currently. So we're going to flip it. It's okay. And you should have your hub. I haven't attached the hub for the wheels on the front. On the front. On the front. What is on the front? Can you be more specific by what does on the front mean? All right. I guess since we are mostly done with our lesson today, we can go ahead and help out anybody that has any problems. So since Sam, if you want some more help, we can go ahead and let you share your screen. And then we can help you out with what you can see. Okay, so yeah, so now we see the wheel. That's correct. Go ahead and click fasten. And then click on the circle. So yeah, so you're gonna do the outer line of the circle. Yeah, and that should give you the center point. And then go ahead and flip it. And then that should be good. Yeah, and if you need me to repeat those steps, you can go ahead and message me and I can share my screen. But if anyone else needs help, they can go ahead and message. What about the other wheel? All right, then I just go over it one more time. So for the other wheel, what we're going to do is we're going to get another fasten, and we're going to fasten this bracket to the wheel. It's like this. We're going to have this kind of circle bracket, or the circle spacer. Then once you have that circle spacer, once we have the circle spacer, we're going to fasten this to our spacer. Just like that. But now we have this weird problem going on where the wheels will be touching if you were to use these. So we're going to go to our last fasten, create an offset around the z-axis. It should be the z-axis. It should be the axis that has, I'm not sure if you can see on my screen, but it should be the axis that is aligned with your axle. In this case, it's the blue one, so it's a Z for me. All right, so I'm gonna say Z axis and then make a rotation of 90 degrees. And then that's how I can get this kind of flip-flop pattern. Is this the last class? Yes, it is the last class. We will send the file for the finished robot at the end. So if anyone has any more questions, you can go over them. And I think you should be up to date with this wheel. You post a video to YouTube, can you include the link to the document? The link to the document, yes, we will include those links. The Onshape links.